Good evening, all. I am Coach A, your host for this evening. Please see us on Facebook at Coaching You For You.
Yep, I can hear you
Can you hear me?
loud and clear.
I can't hear you now.
Really?
This is Coach A. I am your host here tonight. Forgive us for technical difficulties. They happen from time to time. I am your coach here at Coaching You For You. Please see us on Facebook at Coaching You For You. See us on at What Trenton Really Makes, and go to YouTube and look me up, Annette Latie, Coaching You For You. Please hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so that you're notified when we're live. Tonight I have Andre Williams with me, and we're going to be talking about contractors, what he does, how he does it, and how he can help you rebuild and connect Trenton. And my motto tonight is eliminate the fence and extend the table.
That's awesome.
So Andre, you are on. Tell us who you are.
How you doing? You can hear me clear?
Can't hear you.
I think it's on your end because my mic is on here.
We're having some difficulty hearing Andre this evening. And I'm not sure why. Unplug and come back in.
No, my mic is on. Mine is on. It's a button that you have to push.
Unplug it and come back in, Andre. I'm going to ask our guest to just hold on for a second while we get to him. Can you still hear me, Andre?
I can hear you.
I cannot hear you. Unplug your mic and plug it back in.
I don't have a mic. It's naturally
Okay,
picking
go
up.
back out and come back in. Because you're open here and we are prepared
Testing 1,
for
2.
you to. How about now?
Testing 1, 2.
Can we hear you?
Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2.
So one of the things we're talking about tonight is eliminating the fence. We don't just want you to lower it. We want you to eliminate the fence and extend the table so that the people who are living in, near, and around Trenton have the opportunity to participate in development, construction, rehab, and other opportunities. And the reason we ask, we're pushing for the fence to be eliminated is because often the very people who deserve the opportunity to work, who are willing to work, who are committed to the work, who are professionals, who are prepared and want to build and reconnect Trenton are on the other side of the fence for one reason or another. And so I'm asking today, and I'm going to be working with others to ensure that the fence is eliminated. So eliminate the fence. And while I wait for my guest, I want to talk a little bit about this being the last day of Black History Month. So we're going off topic a little bit here for good reason. Andre, I still cannot hear you, and your mic is on here.
Yes.
You're here.
Yes, I am.
I'm not sure what it is. You can hear me,
I can hear you.
but I cannot hear you. I'm going to remove you and bring you back in. How about now? You want to check your phone settings? You want to go into your phone and check the settings for the mic?
Yeah, my mic is.
And while he's doing that, and we're absolutely going to wait for him because he has some great stuff to tell us about where he's been, what he's doing, and how he can help us help us. And we always want to look for those and work with those who are capable of helping us lift up. So I want to talk a little bit about Black history and why it's so important. It's important because for me as a Black woman, I am Black and experiencing Black 24/7, 365. Black History Month is an opportunity for us to share with others what they don't know, because clearly the media has taken control of what people think and believe about Black folks. And everything you read is not true. And even some of the things you see are often manipulated. Are there issues in every culture and every community? Absolutely. You just hear a little bit more about some than you do others. And if you don't believe me, go to an emergency room anywhere, suburbia, urban centers, anywhere at all, and the issue will still present. There'll still be issues presenting that you see mostly in the majority in urban centers. They're everywhere. Murder happens everywhere. Crime happens everywhere. It's just that you get to read about it in some places, and in other places you don't get that opportunity. So today, what I want to tell everybody is there is not one person alive today who is responsible for their ancestors. Not one. But every single one of you today, all day, are responsible for your behavior right now. And there's absolutely no exception to that. Some of you folks act really, really bad and blame others simply because people look or act different than you. But for Black History Month, on the last day, because Pastor Spencer, my pastor today, he laid it down very nicely. You know, we're all responsible for our behavior, including you who don't look like me. Every single one of you. Your ancestors committed horrible crimes and atrocities. That's true, atrocities. But just for today, all day, I'm not holding you responsible for that. I'm holding you responsible for your behavior right now. And for the humans who understand and respect that, we see you too. And it's great to be in partnership with folks who understand, commit, and believe that the only race really is the human race. We do have different cultures, but the only race is the human race. And so once we get that, you know, the solidarity can kick in and we can do a whole lot of things a whole lot different. But we do see those of you who are misbehaving with your microaggressions, with your bigotry, with your racism, with your whisper campaigns, and with your lies about who and what we are. And so, that being said, as I wait for Andre to fix his mic, I want you to know that just for today, all day, there are some phenomenal people out there. There's over 7 billion people on this earth, and some pretty cool ones at that, from all different cultures. Give folks a chance. Don't be so judgmental. And although we know history has been horribly rewritten to favor some, the idea is that our history is what it is. And now we move forward, and now we work to ensure that our children know the truth. And so I want to thank you for that tonight. And I want to thank you for those of you who work in the community and continue to put it out there and get things done. I want to thank you for that. There are people, that we shout out. And I want to take this time to tell you that we're making some changes based on the feedback that we've received from people from across the country regarding Coaching You for You in our weekly series. The first week of our series is Black Men Speak. And we will be hosting that this Wednesday. And the second Wednesday is Sister to Sister. And Lisa Simmons is coming on, and she's going to talk about some real good stuff. And I'm going to tell you ahead of time, as I tell you all the time. Today, you're here. I am sharing with you my experience, strength, and hope. I have years in the business of coaching. What doesn't apply, let it fly. And so I want to welcome all of you tonight and thank you for joining us. I also want to tell you that our third Wednesday podcast is now, we're now hosting Inclusion and Diversity. And that inclusion and diversity is about eliminating the fence and extending the table. Atalaya, can you hear me?
Yes.
I cannot hear you. I'm not sure what's going on. Everything is working on this end. I brought you in. Your mic is on. And the same thing for Andre.
You can't
So
hear
you can both hear me.
Yes.
But I cannot hear you.
I'll go out and come back in.
And so I'm going to go out. I'm going to ask you both to go out for a minute. And I'm going to try some other things. Let me try something else here. And this happens from time to time. We have issues with the podcast. And I don't think it's possible for me to jump out and jump back in without losing the podcast. And so I'm just going to have to continue to try because my co-host is here tonight and prepared to have some conversation with Andre as well. And so.
Can you hear me now?
Inclusion and diversity is the third week, and the fourth week is about peopling, how we deal with others in good, bad, and ugly situations. And so that is our weekly series. We're here at Coaching You for You. We're asking you to go to YouTube, hit the like, subscribe, and ring the bell so that when we're live, you have notifications. We're going to jump out for a second because we're having trouble, and we're going to come back in. Coming back in, and hopefully our guests will come back in and our co-host, because we are here and we are waiting. So Andre and Atalaya, you want to sign back in? I don't want this night to pass. Atalaya?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good.
Let's get Andre back in here. We're just going to give him a few minutes. How are you this evening, Atalaya?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, I'm glad I was out the way for now.
Yes, Andre is here. He's been here.
Okay.
I'm going to shoot him. I'm sure he's watching us, and hopefully he'll jump back in. I'm not sure if he was using a phone. You know, from time to time when you're podcasting, these types of things happen.
Mm-hmm.
You lose sound, you lose light, you lose everything. And we just keep moving. We just
That's
keep
it.
moving. And so I was sharing with them, and I think you may have heard me, Italia. I was speaking to them about this being the last day of Black History, and Black History Month is just simply an opportunity for us to tell people who we are who don't know, because we know who we are. We
Yeah.
know what our history is, and we deal with it 24/7, 365.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, what do you think about that as we wait for Andre?
I'm always happy to celebrate any opportunity we have to celebrate ourselves. I'm
Mhm.
particularly always around February. We get the, we celebrate ourselves all year long, and that's true.
That's
But
right.
I'm always grateful that Carter G. Woodson made this happen and started with History Negro Week, and then it just expanded to the month over time. We can definitely push for it to be all year if that's what we want. But I'm definitely grateful that he had the thought to even make that a thing.
Yeah, and that's how it works. Andre, come on. Come on back in. There you are.
All right. All right.
Can you hear us? Andre? Andre?
Yes.
Here we go. Okay, come on. Thank you for your patience. We want to thank those of us who are with us tonight for their patience, and we're going to go ahead and ask you to tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about you. Just give us 1 second. Italia is finishing up some thoughts about Black History Month.
That's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to highlight Carter G. Woodson for his genius and highlighting us at the time. It was very, very needed. It's still needed. We do need more than a month, but that's up to us to push that. But we do celebrate ourselves all year long. But I'm thankful for the month of February as well.
That's right. And we can continue to change the narrative about who we are, where we come from, and ensure that our children know the truth about Black history. And as I said earlier, we're not holding the ancestors accountable today. We're holding the people who are here right now accountable for their behavior. And a lot of them need to make some serious changes because we see you and we're taking action to change the things that you're doing. Okay, so welcome, Andre.
How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for your patience. Come on in. And I need you to come a little bit closer to that camera so that we can see you. And tell us who you are.
All right. My name is Andre Williams. I'm a real estate developer, general contractor, philanthropist, born here in the city of Trenton. Can you hear me clear?
Yes, yes.
All right. So I actually got my started in real estate development a little over 20 years ago. My father owned properties while I was growing up here in the city, and he taught me the construction trade. So, by him owning properties, I got a first-hand view of when tenants would leave the properties. We would go in and rehabilitate the properties, and sometimes he would allow me to go and collect rent at some of the properties as well. While I was still in high school. And I kind of grew up, just loving real estate, loving everything about it. And I wanted to sit on the side of the table of ownership. And of course, I dreamed a little bit bigger. So, when I became an adult and started buying properties myself, I started buying commercial properties also. So I would buy abandoned properties. I would get some abandoned properties donated to me through our nonprofit organization, which is One Heaven Inc. Then I would buy residential properties as well. And as I rehabilitated the residential properties, some of them I would rent out, some of them I would sell, some of them I would flip and hold the mortgage to them, especially the ones in the inner city. I would hold the mortgages to those because I always believe that, we can have cooperative economics if we are owners of our own properties. And if there
Yeah.
was a family that wanted to experience home ownership, I believe it's our responsibility to make that happen. So when the urban areas around the country are being redlined, um, it's only because we're depending on someone else's system to provide mortgages when we could do those things ourselves. So, I didn't make excuses. I ended up getting my real estate license. I got my general contractor's license. I got my mortgage loan officer license as well. And, I didn't make excuses. I just went in and started opening up other businesses. So some of my properties, like I said, I'll turn them into daycares and preschools. I currently have 3 daycares and preschools here in the city of Trenton: Noah's Ark Daycare, Noah's Ark Preschool. I've owned those schools for just about the last 20 years. I have a trade school that we have developed. And in the past, I used to apply for grants and get
Well,
grant money for the trade school. Go ahead.
before you get into that,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to back up a little bit because I don't want anybody on this call or listening to us to miss the message.
Okay.
Your father exposed you early,
Yes.
number one. And number two is, I don't care where you are, where you come from,
Mm-hmm.
who you think you are, who you think
Mm-hmm.
you're not. A trade will always keep you working
Absolutely.
if you do the right thing. I don't want to miss
Mm-hmm.
that message. Go ahead, Andre.
So with the trade school, it's called Fresh Start Training Academy. And for 2 summers, I got the Cdbg grant. And it was just a pilot program because I kept running into the problem of hiring individuals that just wanted to work. They were motivated to work, but once I got them on the job site, in the beginning, they'll tell you they could do everything. And you get them on the job site and you find out that they haven't been trained properly. So instead of me letting these guys go, I would have a session to where we would train them and they would still be able to keep their employment, but we wanted to teach them to work with us and not against us. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
we taught them framing, we taught them sheetrocking, we taught them introductory to electrical, introductory to plumbing, roofing, masonry, the different types of flooring, from installing hardwood floors to ceramic tiles. And it just helped with the production of completing properties in a timely manner, especially when you're dealing with timelines. And you have different organizations like Wells Fargo. They would donate properties to my nonprofit as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I would want to get the properties back on the market in a timely fashion. We get them, some from Bank of America too. They have what you call REOs, and especially when they're in the inner city, and if someone gets their loan foreclosed on, the banks aren't in the business of managing properties.
That's right.
Right? So they manage mortgages and
That's
paperwork and assets on paper. But the physical bricks and mortar, they would rather put it in the hands of an organization that would do the right thing, and we found favor with them.
To them for a mortgage.
Yes.
So the other thing I want to get into, and I think Atalaya is going to jump in here as well, is this school that you started, that has to continue. The trade.
Yes.
The trade school has to continue. It has to grow. And perhaps it's time to take it virtual to some degree, so that not only can they hear you, they can see you in action, learning what it is that they need to be able to do. And then an apprentice program of some point with them coming on board. Because here's the real issue. One of them anyway. Re-entry is not about just being able to paint a wall.
Right.
Re-entry is giving a person who's ready and willing to learn and participate a real opportunity to earn a living wage.
Right.
And so more people who look like us
Mm-hmm.
have to open the door for us.
Yes,
It is us who will eliminate the fence
that's
and
right.
extend the table while we're pushing and doing, connecting with others to ensure that people who don't look like us do the same thing.
That's right.
So I just want to be clear about how important that trade school is to urban centers like Trenton. And there's a
Right.
ton of people talking about all the changes they're going to make
Right.
and how they're going to restore Trenton and they'll be the best elected official ever. And they don't
Yeah.
have a real plan.
Right.
So,
And so
I'm
go ahead, Atalaya.
So I'm interested in, being that you're both a real estate developer and a contractor, and we know that 2%, it's African Americans are 2% business owners here. What what is your take on it? Like, because there's plenty of contractors here in the city of Trenton, what is holding them back from your point of view?
Well, the one thing that, when I meet up with contractors, see, my father didn't raise me or bred me to be a contractor. He bred me to be a developer and to own properties. So there's a different mentality. Every property that I work on, I own. So when I buy daycares and preschools, I own that real estate under one name. Then my businesses, I own those under a separate name. And those businesses end up paying me a rent. So even though I'm wearing 2 hats or 3 hats sometimes because I'm the developer, I'm the real estate holder, under another entity, and then I'm the general contractor. And then if I put a franchise or another business in that facility, I become a tenant to myself under different entities, though. So when I talk to other contractors and I explain the strategy, the difference is they're waiting on other investors to give them a job.
Right.
And we have to get out of that. The only way we're going to be able to honestly move this city forward is for general contractors and developers like myself to sit down with other contractors, no matter what their trade is, and explain to them we need to own more properties. So when I look at the thousands of abandoned properties here, I can only do so many. Tracy can only do so many. It's other, Will Nance, they can only do so many. So when I meet with them through collective economics, right? Cooperative economics. So when we come together, we're saying, okay, we have one collective idea, and that's to restore our city. And so in restoring our city, that means we have to train other contractors how to own properties as well. So if we go and buy 30 properties, 40 properties a year, and we're individually doing them by ourselves, it takes us a longer time. But when we come together and we could bring in another 40, 50 contractors and teach them ownership, then it changes the game, because now the way that I fill my properties up is I start filling it up from the inside first. So I look at my guys that work for me. I look at the guys that I train, and once I give them a job and they're working for me, I'm saying, okay, I don't want for you to go out there and waste your money paying rent. I'd rather you be a homeowner. And I can make that happen because I own the properties that I'll be, holding a mortgage for them for. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And so now they get a chance at home ownership. And this is how we get these properties back on the tax books. But waiting for other investors to come from the outside and say, hey, how much is, to fix up this house as a GC, when I look at numbers, and they always try to hire me because I put some of my properties on Facebook and on YouTube, and I show the before and after videos. And they're always impressed with our work, and they're always saying, how much did it cost? And when I tell them $60,000 or $70,000, they're not going to put that into any of these properties in the inner city because they don't feel as though the value is there. So the abandoned properties continue to grow.
So let me
When
say
I
this.
look at it for myself, it only costs me $20,000 to $30,000, and most of that is payroll.
And
right?
so listen, most people see that, and I want to hop in here. It's important. Most people see that even that amount is overwhelming. What Italia is looking to do is to bring you together with other contractors, bring you back to this show, allow some of those people who want to work to come on, talk, and ask you questions.
Absolutely.
And so that they understand.
Mm-hmm.
Italia came in early on and I said, well, what can we do? And she said, bring them together.
Absolutely.
And see, that's the first step. The other thing that you're saying, and Italia, this is big. There's enough room for everybody in this city
Absolutely.
to get into this business, earn
Yes.
some money,
Mm-hmm.
and make a real living wage. There's enough room. There isn't
Mm-hmm.
any one or two people who are going to do it. However, Andre, they need people like you who are not trying to gut them, but
Mm-hmm.
trying to help them
Mm-hmm.
learn how to get it done, even if they do it through your apprentice program.
Right.
And so I'm asking you live tonight to commit to both Italia and I and yourself
Mm-hmm.
and the community to apprentice, to build the trade school, and to help them learn how to get it done. Because it's not for lack of them wanting to do it. It's not for lack of them wanting to work. Most of them don't know how. And it's true that people think they can do more than they do. I can't tell you how many people have come to me outside of contracting and wanted to
Mm-hmm.
be CEOs and a host of other things and had absolutely no experience.
Right.
The reason we're in so much trouble right now,
Right.
is due to the lack of this experience. It's not the lack of desire. The
That's right.
desire is there.
Mm-hmm.
Italia is the first person I talked to that had a realistic plan about how to start this thing. And so I
Mm-hmm.
said, where do we start? And she jumped right. She didn't hesitate. I don't even think she took a breath before she told me how we do it, how we start. So we're
Right.
starting with you. And there
Absolutely.
are other contractors out there
Mm-hmm.
who have an honest desire. The difference is you're the first person that I'm hearing talk about wanting to bring others along in a realistic way that makes sense.
Yep.
Not because they don't want to, it's just simply because I haven't heard them.
Right.
And so it begins with opportunity like this. If Trenton's not working, Trenton's not working.
Right.
I don't care how great we think we are. If
Mm-hmm.
those properties on the tax roll is one thing, the other thing we're going to get into a little bit later is something you're already doing. Excuse me, allergies. Is commercial development.
Absolutely.
We miss it. We're missing the boat on that in Trenton. Homeowners cannot carry the city alone.
No, we
No, they
cannot.
can't.
No, we
There
can't.
must be other sources of revenue.
And I just saw a report yesterday where we are double taxed
Mhm.
as opposed to all other towns, and so that's problematic. But that was a question that I wanted to ask too. Being that you're a real estate developer, if you could talk more about the commercial properties versus residential properties. Do one or the other or both bring more ratables? What's your take on that?
Right. So with the residential properties, the average annual property taxes around just is the inner city part, not the Berkeley squares. Their taxes are of course are a little higher, but the average row home or semi-detached home in the inner city is around $2,000 roughly. Some of my properties I'll have like a $12,000 annual property tax. So with those, because they don't have a solid game plan, they're overtaxing the residents. Because with my commercial properties, some of my commercial properties, I'm paying, over $15,000 in annual property tax. And so we all know when you have a lack of, just say in Trenton, we'll give a rough number. If there's 5,000 abandoned properties here, that's commercial I believe it's more than that. I believe it's closer to 8,000 when you add the open lots and the commercial properties plus the abandoned residential properties.
Mm-hmm.
When you add that up and the average tax is 2,000 a year on 8,000 properties, that's over 16 million a year that we're losing.
Right.
So when the county, the state, and the federal government look at their budget and they're saying, okay, when we look at New Jersey and the capital is losing 16 million a year, we don't want to funnel more money down to them because they're not really managing what they have. You understand what I'm saying? So they begin to limit the funds that are supposed to be allocated for the inner city. So now what does that affect? That affect the public libraries, that affect the public pools, that affect you might remember the Weed and Seed program. As a teenager, we used to be able to go to these programs because there was funding for that. And you're talking about the 80s and 90s, most of the homes in Trenton were lived in. So the property taxes were being paid. So they had the extra money to be allocated for after school programs, the public library, the public pools. It was a while when we only had like 2 or 3 working pools in the city. We only had, maybe 1 or 2 after school programs going. So when you're losing that kind of money, they're thinking the way to make it up is to double tax the property tax of the individuals that are here now. And that's the wrong way to do it. The way to do it is to get these abandoned properties back up and running, work with contractors like ourselves. And instead of I never bought properties from the auctions. I have nothing against the auction, but I never bought properties from the auction because it's too many novices that come in and they'll drive up a property that I know is going to take 30, 40,000 to rehab. They'll drive that property up to almost $80,000 for an abandoned property, and the property's not worth that.
I lost $8,000 in bidding on a property,
right,
and refused to go through because that's exactly what they did. The auction is a game, and until people understand the game of the auctions, they're not going to understand how to operate within that auction. But even before we go further, one of the other things I want to say, and this is important. You said so much here tonight. I want to tell Trenton, which includes me, change the way you think and keep your focus.
That's right.
You're looking at elected officials fighting. You're spending all your time, energy, and effort in that. What doesn't apply, let it fly. We're suffering in Trenton. If you want to do something about the elected officials, you do that at election time.
Right.
But giving them unnecessary press, unnecessary time to fight with each other about nothing, and not one flipping thing has been developed. I'm sorry. Not one piece of commercial property is really moving forward. I would say you have to change the way you think, Trenton.
Right.
And start focusing on what matters.
Yeah.
There's so many disparities. Healthcare, education. And you want to blame the teachers. You can't blame the teachers for everything. They have a role. You can't blame them for everything. It's what you send to school that matters.
That's right.
Prepare your child. The state has a responsibility to train for an efficient and effective education. Get focused. Andre is here tonight because we believe in him.
Thank you.
Tony Buck-Teal.
What happened? You're on mute. There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
And so I want you to remember that. We believe in you. We're going to go up because we're going to come back again.
All
but
right.
Trenton, I need my fellow residents to get focused.
That's right.
Stop focusing on the fighting. if somebody posts something about, building revenue and working and doing something different, you blow past it. But you focus on the fact you write from all over the country, about what Trenton is doing. Stop giving bad energy.
That's right.
I just have one quick question before we go.
Oh, we got a lot. Go ahead. Go
The
ahead.
Fresh Start Training Academy, did you say that was yours, or that was something that the state or city did?
No. That's my business. Yeah, I
Okay.
developed it, a pilot program about 10 years ago, because as I was hiring guys, a lot of them didn't have any experience. So I decided to begin training them myself. And then, someone told me about the Cdbg grants that they had in the city. And they said, well, if you do, develop a curriculum, you can apply for this grant. So I did 2 years in a row. I think 2011, I applied for the grant and I received it. And then 2012, I applied for it and I received it. And they loved the program. I think back then, Mark Leckington was in one of those positions. And he called me and he said, Dre, like, if you develop a year-round program, like, it's tons of resources out there, especially through like
There
the
is.
Department of Labor.
Yes.
So I still ran the program, but I didn't go back for any CDBG money because I wanted to, develop it so that I can work with teenagers as well. So during the summers, instead of me working with just adults, I started adding teenagers. And Atalaya, I think you came by one of my properties on Parkside Avenue, right there across from the park, close to Stuyvesant. We rehabilitated that property last year, bought it, and sold it within 8 hours of listing it. So it was a great experience. But I brought in teenagers last summer because I wanted to start teaching them the trade as well. We all know that they took them out of the schools, the late 80s, early 90s. And there was a time you could graduate high school and you could learn carpentry and come out and get a job doing carpentry. You can learn auto mechanic and come out and get a job. You can learn cosmetology and esthetician, and you came out with a certification at 18 and you were able to go work in the shop and make a living for your family. And when they removed all of that, it kind of
destroyed the community.
It was by design, but it kind of put us
It was
behind,
by
the
design.
8 ball.
It was
And so
behind
now
the design.
we have to bring those things back. And so that's what I decided to do. And, I love it. And I developed a real curriculum. We're getting it approved by the Department of Labor. It's a 3-month course. It's about 900 hours over the 3-month course. When they graduate, of course, they get a certification. And the best part about it is the construction company will hire them. I will hire them through my construction company. So I just wanted to develop something that if someone goes on unemployment, our program, our trade school comes up into their system with the Department of Labor, with the unemployment office, with the one-stop career center. An official trade school owned by us comes up on their database, and they're able to say, I don't want to be a dental tech. I want to go to this trade school and I want to learn carpentry. I want to learn how to get my CDL license. I want to learn, how to get my CNA or my home health aid certifications. But every business or every industry that we train you in, we can employ you in because we own the properties and we own the businesses that will offer you employment at the end of, your training. So it's a guarantee. If you complete the program, you're going to get a job.
So listen, Atalaya, you talked about this. You initially promoted this, a while back in a few podcasts back. So we'd like to invite Andre back, or should we call you Dre as well? We'd like to invite you back, Dre, and we'd like to invite others to tune in and ask questions. But more than that, the commitment to reestablish this trade school.
Absolutely.
Or training.
Yes.
And more than that, the opportunity for people to work where you train them.
Yes.
And see, Atalaya, that's what you talked about.
That is, and I appreciate that, and I would like to go deeper with that at a later time. Right now, I'm interested in like I'm so excited about this training academy
Yeah.
aspect, and I know that's probably for the older ones. But you mentioned that you worked with younger people during the summertime. Is that something that you would still do? And then my second question to you is: you also mentioned Tracy and Holly Nance. Do you guys have something that you have now that you guys work collectively with some type of program for the community?
Well, yes, with the teenagers, yes, I'll still work with the teenagers in the summertime.
Okay.
I still have a couple that's with me now because they get out of school a little early. So I have some 10th graders and 11th graders that still come out during the week now after they get off the, remote learning. So I'm still doing it now, but in the summertime, I'll definitely be able to take on more teenagers. So yes. As far as Tracy and Will Holly, um, we're professionals in the same industry, and so we're always working in conjunction with one another. So sometimes I'll have Trey drop his trailers off when I'm doing a roofing job or something, or sometimes I'll buy properties from Will because he's a wholesaler. You know what I mean? So he'll wholesale me properties, or he'll call me and say, Dre, listen, I got such and such. Do you want it? And he knows I'm an aggressive investor. So, we keep money circulating in our circle with one another because we want to support one another. We talked about getting more properties together, and that's our strongest suit because it's easier for us to say, okay, if we go and get 30 houses, Dre, you take 10, Will, you take 10, Trey, you take 10, and then even Will Sr., you take 10. Now we can help get 40 properties going and work with other contractors. And of course, the thing is to get them out of the mindset of just being contractors because there's so much more.
Yeah.
And the industry wouldn't be able to move forward without these guys. That's why, even during COVID, like we've been extremely busy because people will always need a place to live. So, and then these buildings that the hospitals and, the clinics and all of them always needed repairs and always needed work or always, so throughout the entire year, we've probably been more busier during COVID than any other time in history. So the trade, to that point is we need more people that we can train. That way we can actually get more production done. So we need to train more people. We need it. So this is perfect timing.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
That's what we need. We need the training, we need the opportunity, and we need the hope for those who need to work. And they're not always going to be developers. They're going to be apprentices. They're going to be,
Yes.
the people who are doing the electricity. My father was an electrician.
Oh.
I can tie a wire together. And so now that I'm retired, I can tie wires together. But the point is to give people in the city an opportunity to work.
Yes.
That's what we want.
That's what we want.
And so, Talia, I'm going to ask you to pick it up here for a second. I have to step away.
Okay.
But any other questions you have for Will, go ahead with them, and I'll be back in a minute.
Okay.
So I was more interested. I'm interested in like getting to the root of the problem. So you gave us a lot of information tonight, and it was great information. But I'm still stuck around. So I see a lot of contractors, and I know that there's a difference between the contractor versus the developer. But okay, I heard you say that it's the mindset and how they think they have to work for someone else. But I'm thinking, like, is it that, or is it they just don't know like how to go after the money or the grant or the additional information needed to build up their particular business? Because there's plenty of contractors here in the city of Trenton, and it just always baffled me that one, and you know what, this is a question for you. Do we have a listing of Black contractors, African American contractors here specifically for the city of Trenton?
Really, it's not necessarily a list. it's just, most of the contractors, a lot of them, know each other, but because they're going from job to job to job, it's something that they just haven't focused on. And I think part of it is because you'll find it's crazy. You'll find some contractors still renting apartments. Like they can build a house from the ground up, but no one has clicked that light bulb or that light switch to say, hey, why are you throwing away your money in rent when you can own an apartment complex, or you can own an apartment building or a duplex, or you know what I mean? So if no one ever sat them down and told them how truly valuable they are, then they'll just continue to operate as contractors because, let's face it, we can really only do what we've been taught.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where, we come in. We can organize it and we can begin having conferences, you know what I mean, and dialogue and networking. And we can say, hey man, let's go attack this neighborhood. You know what I mean? There's a redevelopment going on in this neighborhood, and this is a redevelopment area. Let's work with the city. If they got 1,000 properties in the North Trenton area between Calhoun and the Boulevard, you know what I mean? And Suites and all the other little streets in between, that's a redevelopment area. So in that redevelopment area, if we say, let's go in this area and offer nominal fees or nominal prices for these homes, I believe we can do that. And I believe they'll work with us, but they want to see us come together too, because, they need our help. And I think the politicians change hands too much. So it's not really anyone that can say, I truly know what the city needs, because they're not here 10 years and 20 years. Like I said, I'm only 47, but I've been doing, real estate investing for over 20 years. And I've seen like 6 mayors. So none of them stayed long enough to really impact the city the way that they should. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that to say anything else, but it's our responsibility. So we're not going to depend on anyone that's in office to do our work. We're going to come together like the 3 of us are doing now through cooperative economics. We're going to talk to other developers. We're going to talk to other general contractors, and we're going to buy the blocks back. That's one of my slogans. Let's buy the blocks back.
It is, yes.
Like I operated under the radar because I was just buying properties and flipping properties and investing in properties and giving out jobs. And because that's in my heart, that's my passion. Like, you know what I mean? When I look at these babies and the thousands of kids that we've graduated from Noah's Ark daycare and preschool over the last 17, 18 years, to me, that's a pillar.
Right.
And that's what we need to do more of, because we can.
And that's
Especially
why you're
if someone,
succeeding. That's
right,
why you're
especially-
succeeding.
Hmm?
We have to wrap up. That's why you're
Okay.
succeeding,
Yes.
because of the way you're doing it. So the first thing I'm going to ask is that through Atalaya, because it was your idea, we establish a list of contractors, just people who are willing to work in what they do. And then Andre, we'd like to be able to refer them to you. And Atalaya, when would you like to have Andre back for discussion with the community?
2 weeks from now.
That works.
Does that work for you?
That does.
Okay.
Okay, so schedule us in, because we know that you're busy, and we're looking forward to working with you and giving the community the opportunity to ask you questions.
Yes.
And to establish this list of contractors, Atalaya.
I will
And
put the list together, yeah.
Even if they're interested, they need to contact you.
Yeah,
and so perhaps you can set up an email for I want a contract at gmail.com. That's all.
Right.
It's just that simple. And let them contact you there, not through your personal numbers or emails. That begins the first part of what it takes. And then you can, work with somebody else to manage that list. But to ensure that people like Andre and Tracy and Nance get that list if they're interested. I want to thank you tonight for Coaching You For You. I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. I'd like to tell you that we've got some things to tell you, and they're legitimate, and they're about how we get it done. Atalaya is my co-host here at What Trenton Really Makes. This was all her idea. I am participating as the host. And Andre, or Dre, I want to thank you, and we're going to see you again in 2 weeks. And in the meantime, I'd like to ask the audience to go to YouTube, subscribe to our channel at Coaching You For You. Hit the like button, share it, and the notification button so that you know when we're on. This is one time when we want you to put all of our business in the street. Tell somebody about Atalaya. Tell somebody about Andre. And tell somebody about Coaching You For You. Andre, I am looking forward. We will have some additional conversations. Atalaya is the lead on this. She is opening my heart and mind again to the opportunity to help contractors and do what needs to be done. And everybody's not operating under the same, agenda and the same heart. But for those who are, they'll join us because they're welcome. And so I'll see you in 2 weeks, Andre. I'll see you next week, Atalaya, and even later this week if you choose. It is Black Men Speak on Wednesday. Join us and listen. They have something to tell you. We are Coaching You For You. I am Coach Annette. This is Atalaya, my co-host. Andre, a developer who means business. Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Atalaya. I'll see you again soon. I need to sing a song, right, Atalaya?
Okay.
That attitude about me singing. Listen, one day I'm going to be singing. I heard some people singing today, and I was like, if they can do that, so can I.
Of course.
I love you. I need you. We're all a part of one family. Stand with me. Agree with me. I love you. Trenton, I need you to survive. Thank you. Have a good night. One day I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be singing. And you're going to regret that you laughed at me. Have a good evening, and I will chat with you soon. Coaching You For You, Coach A, co-host Atalaya Armstrong, and our guest this evening, Andre Williams. Good night, all.
Bye.
Good night. Blessings to you.